Usually when you think about challenging, really entrenched, untouchable power, you picture this massive collision of forces.
Right, like an army against an army.
Exactly, like you need billions of dollars to fight billionaires. The instinct is that you need friction. You want to take down an institution that feels as permanent as gravity. Well, conventional wisdom says you need a weapon of equal mass.
You need a massive expose or a revolution, or, I mean, at least a really relentless legal team.
Yeah, but what happens when that massive architecture of power is confronted by someone who, well, doesn't bring a weapon at all, someone who doesn't raise an army and just simply refuses to be afraid?
It's fascinating because it completely shatters the fundamental rules of engagement that these structures rely on.
It really does. And that paradox is exactly what we are unpacking in today's deep dive. So, welcome. We are looking at a really striking modern allegory titled The Smile That Could Not Be Bought.
It's such a brilliant piece of writing.
It is. It reads almost like an ancient myth, something passed down around a fire. But its target is incredibly modern. It takes direct aim at modern institutional power, the machinery of wealth, and really the construction of impunity.
And the mission here is to pull all of that apart, to see how this text functions as a commentary on the nature of fear itself, and why raw, undefended joy might actually be the ultimate disruptor in systems that thrive on intimidation.
Right. But before we get into how this massive power structure falls, we kind of have to understand the deeply unconventional entity that brings it down.
Yes, the protagonist.
Right. She is quite literally older than time. She represents this personification of primordial joy, or maybe just unfiltered laughter. The source material actually says she is old in the way that Urshins are old.
Which is such a great phrase. I mean, she wasn't born into our calendar system.
Exactly. She was just present before anyone was even around to invent the concept of measuring time.
And the visual descriptions the author uses are so crucial for grasping her nature. Like she is depicted as something that can appear small enough to sit cross-legged in a cupped palm.
Glowing faintly gold at the edges.
Yeah, glowing gold. But then, in the same breath, the text notes that the shape underneath that shape is vast enough to hold every sky that had ever been invented.
Oh, wow. So she's intimate, but also universally expansive.
Exactly. It's a joy you can hold in your hand, but it's bigger than the universe.
And the physical details really build out that concept, right? The text talks about her having round eyes too big for caution.
Right. Eyes that never learned that survival mechanism.
Yeah, like narrowing themselves to make the world safer to look at. And she has this mouth built for real laughter, the kind that erupts before a person even stops to calculate if laughing is, socially permissible in that specific room.
I think that lack of calculation is her absolute defining trait. We really need to distinguish her state of being from what we normally think of as happiness.
Yes.
Well, the text calls her joy a fact of the body. Like, humanity eventually invented words, and some cultures called her mother. But she predates naming. She predates passports.
So it's not a reaction?
Right. It isn't a response to hearing good news or achieving a goal.
That makes sense. I mean, think about how much energy goes into our everyday facial expressions. Like, if you evaluate how you and I smile on a normal Tuesday, almost all of it is a social transaction.
Oh, 100%. It's totally a performance.
Right. You smile at the barista to signal you're polite and non-threatening.
Uh,
You laugh at a bad joke in a meeting because, well, the person telling it signs your paycheck.
yeah, we constantly use smiles as currency to just smooth out the friction of society.
And it is exhausting because it is highly calculated.
It is. And if your happiness is merely a reaction to your environment, then your environment effectively owns you.
Oh, that's a good point.
Right. If circumstances turn hostile, your happiness is just revoked. But the allegory establishes that her joy is completely sovereign. It's a baseline state of existence.
That doesn't need anything outside of itself.
Exactly. Which makes it an unshakable foundation. She can't be deprived of it because nobody ever granted it to her in the first place.
Okay, holding on to that kind of sovereign joy seems relatively straightforward when the threats you face are entirely overt, right? Like, for most of human history, her effortless joy was enough to just outlast bad actors.
Yeah, the old evil.
Right. The text sets up this concept of old evil, these ancient, small tyrants, kings who would weigh their grain stores against a starving village and just choose the grain.
Or merchants leaning their thumbs on a scale to cheat desperate people.
Exactly. These were men who mistook fear for love and cruelty for strength. They caused immense tangible pain, burning towns, poisoning wells, starting wars.
The violence was visceral. You couldn't deny it.
But the story points out a critical limitation to that kind of overt cruelty, doesn't it? It had a ceiling.
Yes, a tyrant burning a village eventually runs out of villages.
Or resources, or soldiers. The evil eventually, as the text says, ran out of road. And she could outlast them the way weather outlasts a thrown stone.
I love that thrown stone metaphor.
It's so good
Mhm.
because her joy just had more centuries in it than their brute force did.
And a thrown stone requires immense energy to throw, right? It does damage where it lands, but gravity inevitably pulls it down. The effort just can't be sustained indefinitely.
So true. But then the narrative takes this sharp turn. The nature of evil evolves into something far more sophisticated.
The new evil.
Right. And it doesn't announce its arrival with swords or alarms or burning fields. It arrives wearing phenomenal tailoring.
Good tailoring and better foundations.
Literally, like architecture and charitable organizations.
Yeah, it hosts high society galas. It receives grateful letters from prestigious universities that it funds.
And most importantly, it builds windowless rooms where the quiet inside isn't peace, but purchase.
That line gives me chills. The quiet that isn't peace but purchase.
It's such a clinical, terrifying way to look at modern philanthropy and corporate structure, because the true currency of this new evil isn't gold coins plundered from a village.
No, it's silence.
It's silence. And the text notes that silence, once you figure out how to price it, can be bought wholesale. It specifically targets trust and innocence, treating the unguarded openness of people as an asset to be acquired.
Used and then filed quietly away under a name no one is ever allowed to say out loud.
Okay, wait, I struggle with this part a bit, and I think a lot of people listening might wonder about this comparison too.
Sure was the hangup.
Well, a shady foundation or a corrupt corporate boardroom is undoubtedly bad, but how is that framed as objectively worse or more dangerous than an ancient warlord who literally burns down a village and poisons a well?
I see what you mean. Bloodshed feels more catastrophic.
Right. A poisoned well feels much worse than a non-disclosure agreement.
It does. The devastation of a poisoned well is absolute. But here's the key. It is also visible.
Ah, visibility.
Exactly. The new evil is vastly more dangerous, precisely because of its ultimate goal, which is unseeability.
Unseeability.
Yeah. A tyrant wants to be feared visibly. Their evil is out in the open. And because you can see it, you can point to it.
And eventually you can rally a resistance against it.
Right. You know exactly who your enemy is. But the new evil co-opts the very structures of morality to mask its actions.
So it disguises its cruelty as respectability.
Exactly. By wearing a bespoke suit and funding a hospital wing, society is fundamentally trained to view this entity as inherently trustworthy.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
This new evil understands that the most efficient way to maintain absolute power isn't through public displays of fear. It's by entirely erasing the evidence of the fear it causes.
It corrupts the fabric of social trust itself.
When evil looks like prestige, resistance becomes almost impossible because the public doesn't even recognize they're being preyed upon.
Wow. And if you want to achieve that level of unseeability in the modern world, you can't just do it alone.
No, you need a massive support system.
You need an entire ecosystem protecting you, this deeply entrenched architecture of impunity. And the text lays out exactly how this untouchability is constructed through protective layers.
Like the judges.
Yes, judges who find convenient procedural reasons not to look too closely at certain dockets.
And headlines that circle a rumor for years, but carefully avoid landing on the actual truth.
Right, or doors that open effortlessly at every elite level. Exclusive courtrooms, political cabinets, the seating charts where the truly untouchable dine together.
And the psychological toll of existing inside that architecture is fascinating.
What does it do to them?
It breeds this highly specific, terminal kind of hubris. The text states this new evil came to believe it had purchased its way out of consequence entirely.
Out of consequence entirely.
Yeah, they dismiss the concept of gods or cosmic justice as just old stories for poorer, more frightened people.
Think about how extreme wealth acts as a reality distortion field for us today. I mean, without naming anyone specific, we all see institutions or individuals surrounded by a fortress of aggressive legal threats.
Catch and kill PR firms.
Exactly. And impenetrable NDAs. It creates this artificial bubble of invincibility.
If you have enough resources, you can literally buy a bespoke version of reality.
Where the rules that govern the rest of society just do not apply to you. You are completely insulated from the consequences of your own actions.
And that insulation is exactly what they built.
Yeah.
But there is a fatal flaw in building an impenetrable, windowless room to keep everyone else out.
What's the flaw?
The people inside undergo sensory deprivation regarding truth.
Oh, they can no longer see what is coming for them.
Exactly. They assume their shield is flawless. But Joy notices what the text calls a single wrong note in an otherwise flawless performance.
The corruption is spreading like a stain through water, but the system has isolated itself so completely from reality that it can't perceive its own vulnerability.
Right.
Knowing how perfectly sealed off this ecosystem is, the natural instinct for the reader is to want to take a battering ram to it.
Of course. You want to smash it.
And the text actually plays on our expectations here, because Joy's older sister steps in and offers to handle the situation.
The sister known as the Clearer.
Right. And she arrives with a blade already drawn, representing the philosophy that some knots can't be untied, they just need to be violently cut.
She represents righteous anger.
Yeah.
She is the embodiment of fire.
Yes, and she tells Joy, fire is honest, fire doesn't need to be believed to work.
Which is such a powerful argument.
I kept expecting the sister to be the hero of the story. Usually in narratives about taking down corrupt cabals, we crave the massive whistleblower drop.
The dramatic trial.
The fiery takedown that burns the whole corrupt structure to the ground. We want catharsis. But Joy refuses her sister's help.
She shakes her head.
Yeah, she says, not this one. This one has never once been afraid of a blade. It has lawyers for blades. Give me the door instead.
Lawyers for blades.
Why does the text argue that anger or fire is the completely wrong tool to use against this modern machinery?
Well, because if you fight a highly litigious, deeply institutionalized system with aggression, you are volunteering to play their game.
Ah, you're playing by their rules.
Exactly. These systems are quite literally designed to absorb, price, and deflect attacks. If you bring the fire of public outrage, they deploy a crisis management firm to control the narrative.
And if you bring a blade in the form of an accusation,
They deploy an army of lawyers to bury you in procedural paperwork until you are financially and emotionally bankrupt.
they speak the language of conflict fluently. They have entire departments dedicated to neutralizing anger.
They can settle anger out of court. They have layered defenses for every conceivable form of aggression.
So what can't they defend against?
What they cannot comprehend, and what they have absolutely no defense against, is an entity that completely ignores their rules of engagement.
So Joy takes the door.
She takes the door.
The text describes her walking barefoot across marble floors that were laid with decades of purchased silence.
Barefoot. Such a great detail.
And the heavily guarded locks just click open for her. The author notes that a lock is only ever a promise that someone's fear will keep it shut.
And since she brings absolutely no fear, there is nothing for the lock to hold on to.
Right. She just pushes the doors open.
She strolls into their inner sanctum. This room, colored like old money, illuminated by low, carefully arranged light, designed to never expose too much.
And she stands directly in front of the long table where the most quietly powerful people in the world are sitting.
And one of the men at the table, just running on the sheer muscle memory of a lifetime spent watching his titles make people flinch, tries to intimidate her.
He draws himself up, uses his most belittling voice, and demands to know if she has any idea who is sitting at this table.
To which the narrative essentially replies, she did. That was the entire point of her being there.
This brings us to the climax, and it is entirely devoid of the explosions we usually expect from a finale.
No fire.
No fire. How does she bring down this unseeable court? She doesn't list their crimes. She doesn't scream at them.
She doesn't even raise a finger in accusation.
She just smiles. And not the tight, camera-ready, calculated smile of a corporate boardroom. Her real smile.
Every tooth caught the low, arranged light and made it honest again.
Yes. Her eyes go wide open, taking all of them in without a single flinch. And she laughs. A helpless, delighted laugh.
The kind of laugh that erupts before you scan the room to check if laughing is safe.
And the text describes this simple act as the most dangerous thing that had ever been brought into that room.
Absolutely.
I really want to unpack the mechanics of this. Why does a laugh, just a sincere laugh, destroy a multi-billion-dollar empire of impunity?
Because it targets the load-bearing assumption of their entire architecture.
A load-bearing assumption.
Every locked door, every NDA, every purchase silence, every judge who conveniently looked away, that entire fortress was built on one foundational premise.
That everyone can be made to flinch.
Yes. That everyone eventually can be made to flinch. The system assumes everyone can be made small, ashamed, afraid, or at the very least, quietly complicit in their own silence for the right price.
That assumption is the engine of their entire machine.
Exactly.
It makes me think of an analogy. Imagine discovering this massive, terrifying, impenetrable stone fortress. It casts this huge shadow. It dictates the lives of everyone around it.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
But then you walk up and realize it is actually just a hollow Hollywood set.
Oh, wow.
And the entire heavy structure is being propped up by millions of tiny toothpicks. Those toothpicks are human fear.
That's brilliant.
The moment you simply stop being afraid, the moment you remove the toothpick, you don't even need to attack the fortress. It just violently collapses under its own immense weight.
That structural collapse is exactly what the text is illustrating.
It really is.
When she stands in that room, she owns nothing they can confiscate. She harbors no internal shame for them to exploit or weaponize.
And her joy has never once been for sale. Not for a favor, not for a fortune.
So they are suddenly confronted by an entity that sees them completely, knows exactly the depth of what they are, and is not frightened in the absolute slightest.
The story notes that their gold, which was really just fear hoarded and pressed flat, stops shining.
Because it only ever looked like treasure due to the artificial darkness they carefully maintained around it.
Flood the room with honest light, and the illusion shatters.
And the distinction the author draws here is vital. This is not standard mortal justice.
Right, because mortal justice is slow.
It's slow, bureaucratic, messy, and infuriatingly incomplete. You might win a court case against a corrupt institution, but the broader system usually remains intact, ready to exploit the next person.
So what joy triggers is different.
Yes, it's a structural annihilation. A court built entirely out of unseeability, out of forced complicity, simply cannot survive being fully seen by total, laughing, undefended sincerity.
The moment that undefended sincerity arrives, the walls cease to matter because they were only ever illusions of authority to begin with.
Illusions propped up by toothpicks.
Total, laughing, undefended sincerity. The system shatters because it cannot process a variable, it cannot buy or intimidate.
It's beautiful.
But as the story wraps up, the author makes sure to warn us that this isn't just a tidy historical fable with a neat, closed ending.
No, it is a description of an ongoing cycle. History repeats itself.
So it happens again?
Yeah. The conclusion explicitly states that this doesn't just happen once. Every new generation inevitably invents a new version of that same hidden court.
They dress it up in modern fashions, invent new technologies to hide their actions.
Design new kinds of locked doors, and practice new, careful, polite smiles. The machinery of power is always rebuilding itself.
But the reassurance here is that every single time, long before they even finish pouring the foundation of their new walls, joy is already inside.
Because walls are only a promise that fear will hold.
And she has none. She is always waiting to smile at them when they finally look up.
The story is ultimately reminding us that while we are not primordial deities, we all have access to that exact same mechanism of disruption. Refusing to internalize the cynicism and fear that these modern structures demand is a profoundly powerful destabilizing act.
We live in an era characterized by massive, opaque systems of power. We navigate intense information overload, corporate surveillance, and frankly, a lot of daily institutional intimidation.
It is incredibly easy to self-censor.
To keep your head down, to become complicit in your own silence just to get through the week.
Absolutely.
But when you feel overwhelmed by the gravity of all that, remember the core insight of this deep dive. The walls of power around you are often just a hollow promise that your fear will keep them standing.
The system requires your participation in the illusion of its invincibility.
If you want to challenge the untouchable, you don't always need to build an army. You don't always need to fight fire with fire.
Sometimes you just need to refuse to flinch.
Exactly. So, I want to leave you with a question to mull over today. If fear and manufactured silence are the true currencies keeping the untouchable rooms of our world locked, what small, unpriced, unapologetic acts of sincere joy can you deploy in your own life today to start breaking the locks on the systems around you?
Keep those eyes wide open.
And don't forget to laugh.